Alright, so in the last video we talked about the three basic chord shapes to play the tune. And so what I'm going to do first real quick is recap some of those chord shapes, and then we're going to talk about what we're going to do with them. Alright, so just to recap, we're in the key of B flat major. The 6th fret on the low E string, there's our B flat, and that was the basis of our first chord, which was B flat major, which is this shape here. And then we went to our 4 chord, which is the 4th note of the B flat scale, E flat major, 6th fret A string, and we get this shape. And then on the 8th fret of the A string, we had our 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is our F7 chord. And then it was a sort of variation of the shape where we, instead of using our bar here, we use our pinky and our ring finger to leave a space so that E flat can ring. And there's our 3 shapes. Alright, so if you took those 3 shapes, like I suggested at the end of the last video, and tried to play along with the track, with the video, with the band just playing the melody there, you know, you may have noticed a few things, and the first thing that you'll probably notice is that you probably sounded a little different than the guitar on the recording. And that's because these big shapes that we're using that are based on our open string chords, our first position chords, they give us a little bit of overkill. Because really, these are all big 5 and 6 note chords, kind of wide, widely spaced along the guitar, up and down. And those big sounds are great, if we're strumming or we're trying to play rock and roll. But for jazz, we need kind of a bit of a tighter sound, a sound that is going to fit inside a band a little bit better. So, and the other thing you probably noticed too is that when we play these bigger chords based on these shapes, that moving from chord to chord isn't very smooth. It's pretty jagged. And if you were hearing the guitar on the recording, it was moving a lot more smoothly. So those are the 2 things that we're going to try and fix or maybe change with our basic chords to fit a little bit better, play more in the style. So the first thing we're going to do is try and reduce the number of strings we're going to play. Because if we can maybe play only 3 or 4 strings, we'll get that kind of tighter sound that we're looking for. So let's maybe first look at that with our B flat chord. So instead of our full chord, what we're going to do is we're going to just use the top 3 or 4 strings of the guitar. Top 4, actually. So what we're going to do is, instead of having our bar all 6 strings here, we're just going to bar the top 4. Alright? And what we're going to do is we're going to use our ring finger here and our middle finger here. So basically we're going to have ring finger on the 8th fret on the D string, the middle finger on the 7th fret on the G string, and then, as we mentioned before, our index finger here is barring the bottom 4 strings of the guitar here on the 6th fret. And so now there's our shape, and I'll show it to you note by note. So we have B flat, a D, and then our bar is going to give us F, and then B flat. So we get a nice B flat major chord. Alright? And again, even just the 3 notes there, B flat, D, and F, they give us all the information we need. Alright? And as a matter of fact, we're going to just stick to those 3 strings for all the shapes we're going to play, just to keep things simple. So we have B flat, D, and F, and we'll keep the bar here for simplicity. Alright. So we've gone from this big sound to a bit more of a controlled sound. So what we're going to do now is try and figure out the other chords using only these 3 strings to see, where we can go with moving as little as possible, keeping things smooth. So the next chord we're going to look at is the second chord we learned, which is our E flat major chord, which, if you remember, was this shape. Now, if we're trying to stick to these 3 strings here, what we discover is that the bar shape we were using with our ring finger on the 8th fret gives us everything we need. B flat, E flat, and G. So that's B flat, E flat, and G, all barred with our ring finger. So now let's take a look. We've got two of the three shapes. We've got our B flat shape here, which is 8-7-6 basically, and then we've got our E flat shape, which is just all the 8th fret there. So we can keep our index finger basically the same, and then drop that, and there's our E flat. So we've got our B flat major chord, our 1 chord, and our E flat major chord, our 4 chord. So we've got one more chord left, and that's our F7 chord, which is our 5 chord. So to recap, that was this shape here. And the real crucial notes, was that E flat, which we're letting ring, pardon me, right there. So what we discover though is, if we go back to our B flat shape, all we have to think about is switching the roles of our of our middle finger and our ring finger, all right? And all we're gonna do is switch where they go. So basically, our middle finger, which used to be on the G string at the 7th fret, is now gonna go down to the D string at the 7th fret, all right? And that gives us an A concert, the note A, which is part of the F7 chord. And our ring finger, which was on the 8th fret on the D string, now goes to the 8th fret on the G string, which now gives us that E flat that we were looking for, that crucial note to the chord. And our F stays the same, because that was there with our bar and our index. So basically we get 7th fret D string, 8th fret G string, and 6th fret on the B string, like we always had, and we get that sound. And you want to be really careful when you're playing the shape, though, to not hit the top string that's barred down, the bottom string, the E string here, because that's going to give us a note that kind of clashes with our A. It's not really the best sound. So remember, we're sticking to these 3 strings, and that's all it is. And we're going to recap these shapes at the end nice and slow so you can take a look. Alright, so now that we've got these 3 shapes in our back pocket, let's take a quick look at how easy it is now to switch between them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from our 1 chord, our B flat chord, to our 4 chord, the E flat chord, and back. So here's our B flat chord, to our E flat chord, back to our B flat chord. Alright, now we're going to go from our 1 chord to our 5 chord and back, our B flat chord to our F7 chord and back. So we have that. We just switch our fingers for the F7 and then back to the B flat. All right, and then finally, let's take a look between going to the 4 chord and the 5 chord. All right, so our 4 chord, there's our E flat major. All right, here's our 5 chord, F7, back to our 4 chord. And then just for good measure, there's our 1 chord. So those are our 3 shapes. So what I'm going to do now is play each shape, hold it for a second, go over the notes one more time just so you have a reference. And then what I would suggest is just take some time and practice switching between the 3 shapes. Alright, so here we go. Here's our 1 chord. Here's our B flat. So the notes are B flat, D, and F. Alright, so that's B flat. Let's do our 4 chord, which is all based on this bar here. We have B flat, E flat, and G. Again, we're only playing the D, G, and B strings. We're leaving all the other strings alone. Alright, and finally we have our F7 chord, which is right here. So we have A, E flat, and F, pardon me. A, E flat, and F. Alright, and if you noticed on the screen, I put up the chord symbols for each of those chords as I played them. So basically, the next step for you is just to take some time and practice playing those 3 shapes, knowing what they are, and moving smoothly from one chord to another. And in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do to kind of match the strumming, kind of the right hand technique and the left hand technique, to kind of match what the guitar is doing on the video there. So that way you can start to play along and kind of be a little more convincing with the style. So again, those are the 3 new shapes for the 3 same chords, the only 3 chords in the piece. Check them out, try playing along with the video, see how they sound, and then in the next video we're going to talk about some rhythmic things that we can do. Okay.